Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Soul Ashraya, a weekly bhakti podcast where we will seek the shelter and wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna with Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I'm your host, Bhakti Jake. Joined with me is my good friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das, and we have a very special guest today. Please welcome Caitanya Prabhu from the Delaware Temple, the
DC
Temple.
Yes,
Thank you, Prabhu. I am just so happy to have you on the show today, Caitanya. I met him in one of the Wisdom of the Sages small groups that they did back. It wasn't last year, but it was over the winter time, wasn't it? It was, they had all these small groups and you could join if you signed up. And Caitanya was just such a blessing to have that meeting every Friday with you over the long, dark Rochester winter. We were just kind of talking about that actually, how like Rochester is like super depressing in the winter time. And it's just so great to have some like live sangha like that. And the Wisdom of the Sages did a very good service by providing that for people. And I know it started out as kind of a large group, but it ended up just really being like Bhakti Scott, myself, and Chaitanya like towards the end. And then even I kind of just like dwindled off. I got busy with work and I had to like just I couldn't take it. Like it was really kind of a long, it was like, what was it, like 16 weeks or something? Yeah.
It was about 16, 17 weeks. It was a long haul.
Yeah, it was. That's a long time. Every Friday though, but it was just so great to have that sangha. So Balaram, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty good.
Good. I love that picture behind you. I love that. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's my god brother painted that.
Oh man, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Every day. So we were just talking about the importance of chanting 16 rounds and how Chaitanya was saying like I am trying for initiation. But Chaitanya was saying like, don't feel a lot of pressure in having to do 16 rounds, but like do the quality rounds. That's what you were kind of saying, right?
Yeah, my focus has always kind of been on quality, and through the quality, through the purity, it'll lead you to the destination that you're hoping for. Right? It's better that you're sitting down and doing quality 1 or 2. What happens is it's going to increase that enthusiasm, right? And in a very organic way, as you're purifying, you're going to get to that 16. But if you're like me, you first come in and you're doing 18, you're doing 20, then all of a sudden you're doing 4, and you're doing 6, then you're not doing any, then you're doing 16 again, and then there's this kind of up and down, and you really want to have that kind of steadiness moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting that I could just tack in there.
Yeah, go ahead, Balaram.
Brought this up last night. We had a special guest from Phoenix who was her parents were devotees. We usually say second generation, but I guess third generation, however you want to call that. It was really nice because she was talking about that generation and their struggle with taking it seriously, right? And how a lot of the kirtan scene has become very performance based, as opposed to devotional, and can be really anyway. But it was great to hear that at the New York Rath Yatra, she was talking with her peers, in that circle, and they were actually discussing this, that this movement, it's only a movement when it's moving, and they're feeling that stagnancy. Like they're all struggling with spiritual stagnancy. It's like, I can't find the motivation, like you're saying, the enthusiasm. So it really is, we have to really dig into sincerity and find some devotional service where we can get some quality. And the idea is, that will build. It's not like, building a house overnight. You start with one little thing. Or a better example, the analogy that is given by our acharyas, our spiritual masters, is the growth of a little plant. It starts out with just a little seedling. And actually someone brought this up in class this morning. Is giving prasadam to someone who, doesn't know anything and can't hear, or doesn't know any of the philosophy, is that enough to just give them prasad? It seems like, they need to know. If I can't tell them the whole thing, then, but it's like, no, I have to understand, it's really baby steps, because we are babies when we begin this process. We can only take so much. And I referenced my friend Vrajras, who actually, you might know, Chaitanya, if you know any of the Delaware devotees. He's the brahmachari there from Chaupati. Hare Krishna Mukundas.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna Mukunda.
Anyway, he was trained in Chaupati, as a brahmachari for over 11 years. Very austere, very, very austere. To the point where they would complain. It's like, we want to hear more philosophy. We want to discuss. We want to get in, like we're doing here. This is actually privilege to do this. What we're doing, Whereas for the monks, it's like, no, service, service, service. And what he's able to appreciate now is that doing that, it's like tilling the fields of the heart to make fertile, that you can absorb. And so you can only absorb as much as you're serving, so like Shushusha Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi, that ruchi for Vasudeva Kata, for this philosophy, this conversation, comes from serving the devotees, right? And so it's like, you don't, in the beginning, you can only take a little bit. And so, he was explaining this to us. It's like, small doses of philosophy. And when he was a monk, or when he was a brahmachari inside the temple there, they would only get like little slivers in the day. But when that happened, they were so eager for it, because they're just like doing menial service the rest of the day, that they would like soak it in so deeply, right? They would really absorb it. So the key with that is service. The more that you're able to serve, that's cultivating the sincerity, that's cultivating that like inner fire, which gives you the enthusiasm to then receive the mercy, and that is what's going to sustain you. So if you're only able to chant one round, or if you're not, you're trying to, whether you're like a second generation devotee who's like has yet to develop or discover their, swabhavika shraddha, we call like their inner, self-manifesting, resonant with their heart, like their calling in devotional service, right? Because it has to be an internal thing for you, right? Or you're someone that doesn't know anything about Christian consciousness, or just getting in the movement. You're trying to find something inspiring. And so the Christian consciousness movement, especially this International Society for Christian Consciousness, its purpose is to engage you in service. And it's not something like, hey, why don't you help out, lend a hand, we need people to carry, buckets of water or whatever, or, we need someone to scrub this. It's not because we need someone to scrub. It's you need to be engaged somehow, because that's the only way for you to awaken it. it's like I was talking, end with this. I was talking with someone who was, a veteran, and had served for several years in the Navy, and I asked him about his experience, and he's like, I think everyone should do it. It should be mandatory, 2 years of service, serve your country, because without that kind of discipline, you will not have appreciation for service. And in turn, I wasn't, gonna challenge or say anything as far as, well, it's actually, transcendental service is really what we're going for. Not everyone's meant to be in the military, but the principle was right on. It's like you need to force yourself to do some kind of service. You need to be obliged to serve. Then you'll be inspired. Just like what was it? Forget who originally quoted this, but it's like I dreamt that life was joy. I woke up and found that life was service, but then I acted, and lo and behold, service was joy. So by being engaged in service, whatever we're able to do, like whatever service you can manage, just like do it. It will work. Like the taste will come, but we need that regulated discipline, and then the spontaneous joy of service will manifest itself, as Caitanya was so nicely saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I can go along with that. I tried getting into the military about 24 years ago, and that didn't work out at all. I I think after the third drug test, they were like, do you want to be in the military? We're like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't know, dude. But punk rock? Yeah, I don't know. Simpler times back then, simpler times. Oh man. Yeah, it's a completely different world now. Chaitanya, do you want to speak to that anymore or anything? Talking about chanting rounds. I'm at like I'm maybe 6 or 8 on the weekend, and like 4 maybe during the week because I work so much. I mean, what do you think about that, man? Like, once I get going though, I do not want to stop. It's like I have to stop because it's like I gotta go to bed. I gotta take care of things, So
Yeah, I mean, it's really about a couple of things, right? Depending on wherever you are, how to increase your taste, right? If you're doing 2 rounds, you got to increase your taste. If you're doing 16 rounds, you still got to increase your taste, maintain that enthusiasm. So how do you increase your taste? Because the name of the game is Krishna consciousness, Krishna center. We're placing Krishna in the center of our lives, and we are revolving our activity, right, around Radha and Krishna and the gopis and all the servants of the service of the servants. So our goal is to revolve all of our activity around that. Normally, most of us, when we start out, we really don't have any concept of being God-centered, right? We really don't have any concept of having that type of relationship where God really is the center of that relationship. And I'm going to show it by the way I manage my time, by the way I manage my relationships, by the way I manage my behavior, my diet, everything. It's going to be God-centered. So it's about increasing that taste. That taste gets increased through service, quality sangha. The sangha is crucial. It's crucial as much as you can be in the company of bona fide devotees, right? Because there's so many different types of devotees on different levels. But we know those bona fide devotees, they have the ability to help you increase your taste, right? So that sangha is very important. Staying focused. What is it? Shravanam Kirtanam. Hearing, you're reading, you're listening, and that you're always keeping Krishna in the mix. I think everybody has their own journey, but if you can somehow manage to keep moving forward with that Shravanam, with that Kirtanam, with that Sevanam and the Sangha, that taste increases, right? The taste for Krishna consciousness increases, the taste for material enjoyment decreases. And what happens when those two exchange, you start rearranging your life. You start rearranging your behaviors, right? I know for me, I did this, I did that, but as the taste increased, it was like, you know what? I got to do these rounds. So for me right now, the 16 rounds are the central part of my life. So it doesn't matter, I don't care what goes on during the day. It could be a hurricane, somebody passed, a mass of people passed, I lost my job, I've been in a car accident. My central concern are those 16 rounds. But why? Number 16, you heard people say 16 is actually this number. If you're not doing 16, you're supposed to be doing 64. Well, 16 is the promise I made to my spiritual master. And that's what it's really all about. That's the promise and the commitment I made to my spiritual master, right? And he made a commitment to his spiritual master. And so that relationship at this point in my life, that relationship is paramount to me, completely paramount, because there's no way I can even be a smidgen of Krishna consciousness without that relationship. So it's all about the 16 for me, but I don't say that in a way where you're 16, it's not like it's a hard 16. It's about that commitment with my spiritual master. And it's about that formal linking with Guru and the entire parampara, right? Like, these are my guys, and I want to be a part of this team, and I want to be associated with these individuals, and I want to be associated with all of this, right? So that's, for me, that 16 is it's the linking point for me personally.
Yeah, it's not like, I like how you bringing that out. It's not like it's 16, like you're counting down. It's like, okay, only, I got 4 more to go. All right, now 2 more. Okay, last one, finally. It's not like you're counting like that. It's, the number is there to keep you accountable. But it's not that we're chanting in that kind of consciousness, because yeah, you're not able to get deep into a relationship, just like any relationship. So it's like, okay, we're married, so I guess I should give you at least 5 days of the week or something like that. All right, babe, we got 1 more hour here and then I can go.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts, right?
That's how I chant. Yeah. Satsvarup Das Goswami, I don't know if you've read his Japa Reform Notebook. I try to read it every day before I chant, just like 1 or 2 pages. And so good that he talks about that in one of the sections. We really have to cry out like this is our last opportunity. And there's no telling, but there's really no other way to get into it. That's really kind of what it boils down to. I am completely dependent on the mercy here. And unless I bring myself to that point of ultimate, total dependency, total depravity, my mind is going to cheat me,
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about, what you're getting at here, is really the secret to success, to be quite frank. It's the secret sauce for anyone struggling with their rounds and with their japa. The realization that, no, you can't do it on your own. You are completely dependent. I'll be the first to raise my hand. It's impossible for me to complete my rounds without the mercy of my spiritual master, right? Without the meditation of my guru being there for me and being available for me, I can't do it. That's really the secret sauce, that you are dependent. And when we can relinquish that control, right? And really grab hold of that sharanagati, that surrendering principle, and that surrendering mood, it really makes it easy. I don't want to minimize it, but it really does when we can get into that mood of surrendering.
Yeah. well, it should be easy. I don't know if easy is like best word, but it's
No, probably not the best word. You're right.
it is natural for the soul to feel itself in that relationship. That's loving relationship, That's beautiful. Maybe we can tie this in to the reading today. We're starting chapter 2. I don't know if Jake put you in where we're at here.
Yep.
But prayers of the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. We might not get today to the point of demigods entering the scene, but what do you think? Are you seeing a connection? I'm thinking in terms of, the demigods are fully conscious of their relationship with God, right? Not to say that they're fully Krishna conscious, and that's kind of the point, but they're in that position that we're at, of that fortune of understanding, no, there's me, and then there's God, and I need God in my life. I need more Krishna. And so my understanding of this chapter is they're praying to Krishna, kind of like I was saying yesterday, like they're putting in their final offerings before Krishna advents, right? It's like,
Chaitanya, we're going to be starting on chapter 2.
Of the Krishna book?
Yes, of the Krishna book. I figured we would. I know I said that in the text message last week, and so we are right on schedule with chapter 2. Sorry, I didn't tell you that today.
Okay.
That's fine. If you've been around long enough, you've read the Krishna book a few times, so you're never completely out of the conversation.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Balaram, do you want to do the invocations?
Yeah. So we'll just do Om Namo, call and response, and then together the rest of them. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastita Deshitarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Right.
Just want to say I love what you said, Mukuna, about wanting to be a part of this parampara. Like I want these personalities in my life. When we chant these prayers, that's precisely what it's invocation, right? We're invoking that, we're calling on that, we're offering our heartfelt prayers and obeisances, namaskars. But that's really the mood, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna be taking that away from today.
Do you want to start, or anybody
Jake,
want to start?
Why don't you kick us off? Actually, maybe not. There's a lot of names here. There's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not good with names.
Okay, Chaitanya, why don't you go? We usually do 2 paragraphs each and then rotate.
Okay, I'll start with
and
you.
at any time, stop, comment, converse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do the first 2. King comes in not only prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. Om Lord Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
King Kamsa not only occupied the kingdoms of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andhaka dynasties and the kingdom of Shurasena, but he also made alliances with all other demoniac kings as follows: the demon Pralamba, demon Baka, demon Chanura, demon Tirnabhakta, demon Aghasura, demon Mustika, demon Arishta, demon Vidvida, demon Putana, demon Keshi, and demon Dhenuka. At that time, Jarasandha was king of Magadha province, known at present as Bihar state. Thus, by his diplomatic policy, Kamsa consolidated the most powerful kingdom of his time under the protection of Jarasandha. He made further alliances with such kings as Banasura and Paumasura until he was the strongest. Then he began to behave most inimically toward the Yadu dynasty, into which Krishna was to take his birth. Being harassed by Kamsa, the kings of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andhaka dynasties took shelter in different states, such as the state of the Kurus, the state of the Panchalas, and the states known as Kekaya, Shaiva, Vidarbha, Nishada, Videha, and Koshala. Kamsa broke the solidarity of the Yadu kingdom, as well as the Bhoja and Andhaka. He made his position the most solid within the vast tract of land, known at that time as Bharatavash. It's just a really quick comment. It's really so interesting. If we were to read about this personality today and strip away the context, this would be a very politically savvy, admirable kind of person, King Kamsa, in our modern day society, right? He would be someone that we look up to, and he would be on our news for sure, I can tell you that. So it's interesting, stripping away the context, how he almost has these qualities that are capable of being glorified. But again, this is outside of the context of Krishna, the Supreme Personality.
Beautiful. Yeah, we definitely praise great diplomats. It's like glorious. Don't mind the fact that they murdered millions of people. or they make alliances with all kinds of nasty men and women, right? It's okay. They make my favorite is what's his name? The Tesla guy. Everybody buys all of his cars. Nobody has any issue with any of his other activities, and that's so much the case in this modern day of time.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember his name now.
Elon Musk.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I've got
actually
bet on Elon Musk. I'm just kind of throwing a name out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, pretty much that's such an interesting point on just the way of the world. It's like there's this total separation between like my outer activities and my inner world. Like I should not have to make any account, like zero accountability or personal responsibility, right? As far as like what I do or what I put in my body, if I'm putting, flesh, carcasses in my body, like that has no bearing. I can be a politically correct or like an outwardly pious person, but in my personal life is mine. I shouldn't have to reveal that to anyone, because it's irrelevant. Whereas the fact of the matter is it's actually the most relevant thing. What you're doing outwardly is not as significant. It actually has no substance compared to what you're doing inwardly. And that's the path of religion. Spiritual life means inviting God, like the ultimate witness, if you will, into your inner life, and he'll purify it. He'll make it pure. Without him, without any kind of conception of him, even if it's just some inkling of like, maybe I should do something about this, without that, there's no way for you to be pure. And actually all of it's said, right, that what is it, like 5:18-12 Bhagavatam, no good qualities are present in such persons that do not acknowledge the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas those that do, even if just a little bit, you acknowledge God, you acknowledge Krishna, invite him into your heart, very soon you'll develop all good qualities.
Like that, the ultimate witness.
Yeah.
That's nice.
All right. Jake, do you want to read?
Yeah, I'll read a little bit here. So we are at when Kamsa,
Yeah.
right there, right? Okay. So when Kamsa was killing the 6 babies of Devaki and Vasudev, one after another, many friends and relatives of Kamsa approached him and requested him to discontinue these heinous activities, but all of them became worshippers of Kamsa. Wow, man, that is heavy.
Wow.
That is heavy.
Can we
Wow.
talk about that?
Yeah, you want, I don't even know what to say. Like,
I'm
sir,
not.
please stop killing those babies, please. Thank you. Oh,
I mean, just imagine this, right? Like,
crazy.
we can kind of, especially for us, you know, in ISKCON being so familiar, we can kind of just glaze over this. You know, or it's like, I think about, like, you know, Sunday school kind of, you know, they're telling these stories in the Bible. It's like, yeah, and that evil person did this. Yeah, okay. And we don't really like try to enter into like what's going on, because then, and this is what happens, right? We just say they're the bad guys out there. It's like, oh yeah, Kamsa, he was the bad guy. Whereas again, it's internally is where we need to do the work, and we have to recognize, we have to understand that this is all going on in our heart, and we need Krishna. If we don't understand this, that like I'm the Kamsa, you know, then how can we ever cry out for Krishna to enter our heart? You know, he wants to, and until that point, you know, these demons are going to be there. So we try to like really think about this, or imagine this scene. Like if the leader of your nation was just like killing babies. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But he's so powerful. So this is what's happening, is he's so powerful that even his family members would come up and they couldn't tell him anything. And they ended up, you know, kneeling. And so it's all, you know, like Hitler, it would be a close example. If anyone stood up against him, they were put right down. And you know, we see movies that are like super, oh my God, have either seen I think it's called Two Popes or something like that? There's a movie about the 2 popes when whoever he was who resigned. You guys remember that happening? Pope Benedict or something, he resigned.
Yeah, Pope Benedict, first one to resign.
Yeah. So there's a movie about them. And it was like soul stirring, but I hope I'm citing the right movie. That's what came to me. But there was a scene where it was like it was going on a like a flashback of this man who fled in fear of the Nazis, and another he was a was that priestly order, the
Jesuits?
Jesuits.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a Jesuit priest, and he you know, saved his ass. And this other a few Jesuit priests, they said, no, like, you know, this is our mission here. Like, this is God's work. You know, we're preaching to these youths here, whatever it was. We can't run away from this. And what, of course, they got imprisoned and tortured for many years, right? And then years later, the man who left, who ended up, I think he was the one who became he was you know, elected to replace Benedict, and he was from South America, I don't remember his name.
Pope Francis.
Okay, thank you. He felt this unbearable remorse, right? Like he did something unforgivable, and this is, what it was. And he's like, I'm not worthy. And of course, that's really what made him so pure, is because he had this repentant heart. But this one scene, it just like so powerful. He finally returns, or I don't know if he returns to that place or somewhere. Maybe it was actually in the Vatican. He's taking communion, and the man that he left there, wherever he was at that mission, who had been imprisoned and tortured by the Nazis, he's serving him communion. He's serving Francis communion. And there's just this one moment of this look. They don't even exchange words, but the one serving is just like, I forgive you. You are forgiven. Please take the Lord's communion. And Francis, he just like, you can tell he's just like shattered in catharsis. So beautiful. How did I get on that? Oh, became worshipers of communion. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the bending of the knee, right? That's okay. The point. Is like with the Nazis, it was very easy for people to be like, no, I'm out of here. I'm gonna save my ass. Whereas the strength, this is the beauty of God, actually. Something so heinous, he can show something incredibly beautiful that otherwise this kind of beauty would never have an opportunity to be revealed. Those men who stayed, those priests who stayed, what incredible character, like what incredible devotion, that even in the face of all evil, they stood up for what was right, and they endured. So passages like this, it's showing like this is the kind of person, all evil is there, and most people, except for a handful of devotees, everyone bent their knee to this man. So I just wanted to kind of draw that and bring it to that relatable.
Yeah.
There's most certainly when you're reading someone's writing, there's what's on the page, and then there's what's behind the words, and you can certainly see from that passage. None of them were kind of okay with him killing babies, right, on the surface, but all of them became worshippers of Kamsa. Right? And I like how he put that. He's really making a strong point, as you mentioned, Balaram. He doesn't say, well, they capitulated to him, and no, they took it even a step even further, right? They became worshippers of him, meaning he became a point of adoration at some point, right? It really speaks to the marginal potency of the living entity. This kind of fine line that we walk, and it can be easily pushed to one end of the spectrum or the other, depending on so many things, but especially depending on Sangha and association. This reminds me so much of the guy, he recently committed suicide in prison, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. He initially got his millions by misappropriating funds from some friend he was working with, right? And that's the point where you say, okay, this guy's just a common thief. But no, what happened? He misappropriated those funds, and he created this worldwide network of sex trafficking. And it's in the same space. You have all of these powerful people. They almost became worshipers or associates of him, right? Despite the fact you only know him because he was a thief and he stole misappropriated funds from somebody else, right? But that desire for sense gratification, without the counterbalance of sadhu, sangha, shastra, and association, that sense gratification is so strong, right, that it removes the intelligence of one. So now all of a sudden, these very intelligent men and people, now they are associates of this sex trafficker.
Yeah.
Right, and it's that line for the living entity, us, It's a thin line. Right? And if we're not strengthened on the side of God, on the side of Krishna, then, like you said earlier, we're just barely treading water. Right? We're very vulnerable and we're very susceptible to these types of influence. I remember working in one place. I was talking to an older guy. We were talking about some guy and he was corrupted. And we were kind of lamenting it. Then he looked at me. He said, Charles, you wouldn't do that if that was you, right? I said, I don't know. There's no telling if I got in that situation, how I would respond, how I would behave, right? Because it's a lot of times we get pushed into these different systems, into these different cultures, right? And when we're talking about the friends and the relatives of Kamsa, they become engaged in this culture that Kamsa spearheaded for all intents and purposes, through the killing of the babies, through the tactful relationship building, his policies, right? They become ingrained and entangled in this culture, and at a certain point, it's very difficult to not say no, and even further, it's difficult to not to disentangle and remove yourself from that. It's extremely difficult. So we see here that they didn't just say no and kind of went and hid. They became worshipers. What's the thing? If you can't beat them, join them, right?
Right.
So it's really interesting how that one sentence is just packed with so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also like Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yeah. The influence, and it's something we take for granted. New and longtime devotees, members of ISKCON, members of any spiritual community, right? The vulnerability of the living entity. The vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's like my roommate says, when we see homeless people or people that are like the bottom, of society, he's like, with all honesty, like being like totally honest with yourself, I'm only 2 bad decisions away from being right there.
Yeah.
It's like I'm, just 2 minutes from demoniac consciousness. It doesn't take much. Like, we are very powerless. In a sense.
Every single one of us, from the wealthiest to the one with the least resources. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I'll read on here just a little bit more here. Okay, so when Devaki became pregnant for the 7th time, a plenary expansion of Krishna known as Ananta appeared within her womb. Devaki was overwhelmed with both jubilation and lamentation. She was joyful, for she could understand the Lord Vishnu had taken shelter within her womb. But at the same time, she was sorry that as soon as her child would come out, Kamsa would kill him. At that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being compassionate upon the Yadus who were fearful due to the atrocities committed by Kamsa, ordered the appearance of Yogamaya, his internal potency. Krishna is the Lord of the universe, but he is especially the Lord of the Yadu dynasty. So that is very interesting right there. Should I read one more here?
Very interesting. Maybe I can pick this one up.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, let's just read a little bit further to hear more about Yogamaya.
Yeah, Yogamaya.
Yogamaya is the principal potency of the personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is stated that the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has multi-potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. All the different potencies are acting externally and internally, and Yogamaya is the chief of all potencies. The Lord ordered the appearance of Yogamaya in the land of Rajabhumi in Vrindavan. which is always decorated and full with beautiful cows. In Vrindavan, Rohini, one of the wives of Vasudeva, was residing at the house of King Nanda and Queen Yashoda. Not only Rohini, but many others in the Yadu dynasty were scattered all over the country due to their fear of the atrocities of Kamsa. Some of them were even living in the caves and the mountains. Oh. The Lord thus informed Yogamaya, under the imprisonment of Kamsa are Devaki and Vasudeva, and at the present moment, my plenary expansion, Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki. You can arrange the transfer of Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. After this arrangement, I am personally going to appear in the womb of Devaki with my full potencies. Then I shall appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, and you shall appear as the daughter of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. Okay, Jake, what are you getting from all this? That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot there.
Yeah, that is a lot. That is there's I guess it's just it's a God thing happening right there, I mean, we're talking about the Lord like informed Yogamaya, I mean, that's God. When you have that kind of authority where you can do that, like, hey, listen, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it looks like there was some very wise, well thought out arrangements here. So yeah, and that's another God thing, is always being prepared, I guess you would say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that arrangement is going to make more sense as the story unfolds. We'll get to see the kind of genius here. And I mean, that just only continues as far as like the dynamic of Krishna with his family members is like so pivotal in this entire book, the entire, story of Krishna, the entire Krishna consciousness. It's really something that just continues to deepen, our understanding and of it, as we learn more. It's Chaitanya Prabhu, do you want to speak anything to this?
Yeah, I do.
Please.
So let's keep in mind, not keep in mind, but let's remember Srila Prabhupada's interaction with his spiritual master. Right? His spiritual master told him something to the effect that you're really good with English. You should produce books, print books. And Srila Prabhupada, he's one of my absolute favorite authors, and it's because of this passage right here. He's almost brilliant on a literary sense. Just before this, what do we get a depiction of? King Kamsa, the activities of King Kamsa, the arrangements of King Kamsa, the political arrangements of King Kamsa, and then boom, Srila Prabhupada thrust us right into the spiritual world, right? Brings us right into the concerns of the devotees, which is interesting, right? The concerns of the devotees brings us right to this Sharanagati, this surrender to Krishna. And then this back and forth, and Krishna reciprocates according to their surrender, according to their association. He says, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to instruct Yogamaya to do A, B, C, D, and E. So we see this intro of how Kamsa makes all of these wonderful political arrangements and all of these different associates, powerful men and associates that he brings to his side. But then we see the sweetness of Krishna and his devotees and their reliance on Krishna and his reciprocation with them. And it just like this beautiful thing starts to unfold, right? You were reading it and I'm just brimming with pleasure, because it's like, yes, this is Krishna. These are his devotees. This is how they interact. This is their love. This is pastimes. Is really what I'm trying to say here. These wonderful pastimes of Krishna.
We had touched on that yesterday at the end of the show, the pastime, talking about Leela and how it is completely independent, of the material situation. And you just spoke so nicely to that even like in the form of babies, God can take that form and he is still God. He is always full with his potencies, which are totally, achintya, right? They're totally beyond the realm of any kind of material adjustments that we might make. And time again, the stories of these avatars, Hiranyakashipu is a great example as well. Same kind of contrast is given there. You have the most powerful yogi demon, and then you have this 5-year-old boy, and just this purity and innocence, and how good really does triumph over evil in the end. That the playful nature, this like that is God. He's fully able to do that. He doesn't have to like make any endeavor or anything. He could, if he wanted to, he could just drop a kill switch, just like pinch their just one artery, and without anyone knowing, it's all the demons just died suddenly. How did that happen? But obviously he's doing so much more in his activities to reciprocate with his voice, and to show us who are kind of on the sidelines, like, this is the shelter you get. This is, just see, even the most powerful political, what have you, arrangements, they can't do anything. And I, as Krishna, can just come in, and even in the form of, babies and just pure-hearted people, it actually conquers. Yeah.
And I would challenge anybody to read those two passages and say that you have some concern for the comes and the babies after that, right?
Right.
Like, as I'm reading and I'm hearing about Devaki, like that whole scene of this guy killing baby after baby and bifurcating the Yadu Dansi, completely gone. I'm hearing about Devaki and Krishna and Yogamaya, and I'm just, all of a sudden, all of that's just kind of wiped out. Like, I have absolutely zero concern over what just happened. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's just so beautiful. Again, that Prabhupada just jumps right to, from that to this, that this is, the reassurance. I don't know if I'm able to explain. I think he did a good job with that, though.
Yeah, I know what you're on, right? Because without Krishna as the context, like that transition wouldn't jive.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't jive in a movie. It really wouldn't jive in a book, right? It'd just be kind of like this hard jump and this hard leap. But that Leela gives it that context. So all of this sitting on this bed of like sweet nectar or something, right? So it's fascinating, that transition there. It's really fascinating.
Movies can do a good job of this. There are some, especially like Japanese film, they really have this like black and white kind of what's aesthetic, where they draw out contrast. And even like with like nature, just like a gust of wind can like say everything, in certain scenes. Just, like hope springs eternal. Or like, they have a lot of, what do you call it? Token things, like rainfall, or like cherry blossoms, that represent spring, and hope. And when you see something very evil and then it cuts to something very beautiful, or like a little plant like cracking up between the asphalt, it's like, okay, I see what's happening here, So the ultimate kind of version of that is Krishna appearing. And so he sets the stage so nicely. Another thing that's going on here, and this is going to echo when Krishna actually appears, but how Devaki feels jubilation and lamentation. She's actually afraid, or she's sorry is actually the word, that she is in the mindset, or more appropriately having this experience of concern for her child, which happens to be God, but it's like, this is the power of love, is actually you forget, or it goes beyond the intellect. Like the intellect should, and the story's going to draw out, it's like, you don't have any reason for concern, actually, I'm arranging everything. But this maternal concern overrides, what should be. It's like, if that's an Antashesha, then it's like, you can't kill him. But, and again, this will come back around, but I just wanted to underline that as a really, and that's something that we'll, I'm sure, discuss more about if you want to touch on that at all. I mean, that's a very profound thing, but it just goes to show how powerful. And again, the concept, like, Krishna is coming for this sort of thing, and he's actually more interested in this, in the maternal love, something very innocent, than in destroying demons. Like, and we've mentioned this before, if it was just about destroying demons, Krishna wouldn't have to come. He would send a Vishnu avatar, but he's coming. And why is that? It's because the experiences of loving exchange are far more powerful. They're actually very substantive. We were discussing this the other night. Really amazing. Very, very advanced devotee here was bringing out this point that, the demigods, like, we watched the movie Contact, which, if any of you have seen, that would give you some context here. It's very spiritually minded movie, as far as the experience of God, and how, like, the alien contact is actually an analog for being touched by God or having an experience of God. And the scientists are sitting there like, we can't understand, like, you don't have any proof, like, this is meaningless to us. Whereas to the aliens, to God, or we could say to the demigods, which is actually really what it is. From demigods' perspective, like, all of our political, like, that's not really so interesting or substantive, and they don't care to come here because it's like we're kind of just like ants, doing our little thing. It's like so inconsequential. Whereas experiencing God, like, that's something very interesting, and it might seem like very innocent, so this movie did a nice job of it, but it's the same thing. It's like something like a mother being concerned, like, that might seem so innocent and kind of inconsequential, but it's actually like something that, like, these demigods, like, they're very concerned about this. Like, they're very interested. They want to take full part in the Leela, in the play, because that is something very interesting, very substantive. Whereas everything else, it's just, doesn't actually amount to anything. It just gets destroyed by time. Yeah, so it's an experiential thing. Krishna consciousness, it's not something you can just kind of like concoct, right? Or obviously, it's not an imposition on the mind, Prabhupada would say. It's experiential. God realization, it's not something you can be convinced about, or you can be proven. It's an experience, and that experience is like, it gets very deep, these very deeply emotional experiences that the devotees are having. Like, that's what Krishna is interested in. Like, he's interested in having that dance with you. And everything else is like, don't worry about anything else. Just come, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we did make we made a little bit of headway today in chapter 2. we are at exactly 60 minutes right now. So I might I kind of want to do one more paragraph. I mean, if everyone else is okay, do you guys want to do one more paragraph?
I can do this all day long. I'm very biased.
Yeah.
I can't answer this.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. How are you for time, Balaram? Are you good?
I'm okay. I have a class in half an hour.
Okay.
That in this room, so I just
Oh.
need like 10 minutes before then.
Okay. Well, maybe we will stop it right there. Sorry to get everybody excited. Sorry. But this was a fantastic episode. Chaitanya, you can come on the show anytime. If you want to come on,
Yeah.
you can stay
Yes.
on if you want. Absolutely, by all means. And thank you for everybody showing up and for everybody watching. This is the Soul Ashraya podcast. We do this live every Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern time on the Zoom meeting. We have a group on WhatsApp that you can join. Check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And thank you again, everybody. Thank you, and Hare Krishna. Let's do the Maha Mantra 3 times real quick, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama, Hare, Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama, Hare, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
All right, thank you. All right, everybody, be good, and we will see you later. Haribo.
Hare Hare.